We welcome you to a brand new set of 10 PMP clone questions. As we promise each and every week, we are here back on yet another Tuesday with a brand set of new challenging PMP questions, and would be looking forward to helping you out the best way possible. We call it the Assured EduHubSpot way. I hope that you are all enjoying the weekly sessions at our end, and you are also going out and learning a lot. I'm getting a lot of comments, and many of you have also personally reached me out over YouTube and even on my personal cell number, as well as over email. And I look forward to your participation equally out here and making this particular session even more fruitful, even more enjoyable to you. So, with that, I welcome you all yet again. Feel free to also go ahead and shoot any of your queries over chat. I'll be more than happy to help guide you forward. So let's get started with the first question of the day. So here goes your first question, and I will go ahead and kickstart the timer. Here you go. Okay, so we are done with the time. Hi everyone. Good morning yet again. We already got started with the first question of the day. I already see both of you, Ahmed and Calvin, going ahead and marking the right option. Okay, so Abhipsha says it's option A. Let me go back and go ahead with the explanation of this particular question. Now, as always, the rule goes that you need to go and understand the question end to end with full scope in entirety and not miss out on any of the key or the critical components out here. Then only you'll be able to go ahead and adopt the best strategy and obviously go ahead and see whether whatever option you preempted in lieu of all the preparation that you have got and done is the best option forward or not. Let's see what this question tells us about. In the next 3 to 6 months, a business law is expected to arrive with the potential to impact a business's product line. A new product is scheduled to be released in the next couple of months. Unfortunately, the product won't be meeting the requirements set by the proposed law. Which of the following showcases the way in which the project manager should respond? So the question says that in next 3 to 6 months, a new business law is expected to arrive, and that particular law has a potential to go out and impact at firstly, or even positively. Who knows? We are not, being mentioned whether it's positive or negative, but it will impact the business's product line. Now, the new product whatsoever is scheduled to be released in the next couple of months. And obviously, upon release, that new business law will soon impact that product, isn't it? Now, the product won't be meeting the requirements set by the proposed law. Now, here you get to see that whatever new proposed law is going to come is definitely going to impact the product negatively. The product is not going to meet the requirements set by the law. Which of the following showcases the way in which the project manager should respond? Option A, come up with a meeting with the sponsor and key stakeholders. Now we know it very well that meeting is definitely one of the key ways to go ahead and deal with the business from the project manager's perspective, isn't it? Communication is 90% of the time where the project managers go ahead and get to deal with. Now, meeting is okay, one of the ways. Let's see the rest of the sentence out here. Cautioning them about the law and advising to cancel the project. Well, cautioning them about the law could have been okay. But then remember, from any of the options perspective in the real exam, going ahead and canceling it without having got done with the other alternatives is possibly not the way out. Question is not mentioning that you can't go ahead and get done with the project, or the product can't go through. The product is meeting some challenges, but beware, you should not go ahead and directly jump to the conclusion that you won't be able to deliver the product, isn't it? That would be too hasty. So option A gets ruled out. So all of you whomsoever has attained or attempted this particular option, that is option A, possibly thinking the right way, but again, a drastic action won't be the way forward. Option B, proceed with the project as per plan, ensure on time completion. I won't be seeing the rest of the option itself. I can't proceed the project as per plan. It's given in the question that I won't be able to proceed. Why? Because the product is not meeting the requirements set by the law. Option C, come up with a meeting. Here you go. Again, one more meeting, isn't it, with sponsor and key stakeholders. But just like in option A, you're supposed to also go ahead and read the rest of the sentence in this particular option. Make use of the results from this meeting to revise the assumption log and the project charter. Now, very, very importantly, whatever impacts that you get to see in this particular question needs to be updated in the relevant documents. What relevant documents are we talking about? The project charter, which has the high level description of the project. Also, the assumption logs. Now, at the outset, we had come up with this assumption log, with the list of all the assumptions at that point of time. Now, the assumptions will also need to be updated, isn't it, at this particular point of time, and you need to come up with the relevant propositions, whatsoever is applicable. Remember, these documents will also be going ahead and complementing the plans whatsoever at the the business's end. So you'll have to ensure that these documents are updated. Now, once you update, once the project charter is updated, then you can possibly think about the relevant other actions whatsoever. Whether to cancel, whether to take forward, whether to go for any other options whatsoever, that would require some analysis. We are not supposed to go ahead and jump directly to canceling the project without having performed the due diligence. But remember, in such cases out here, very importantly, if you are encountering some blockade, the product is not meeting the expectations whatsoever, or facing some of the other issues, you'll possibly have to go ahead and think through and come up with revising the assumption logs and the charter. Very, very important. Option C, revise the risk management plan, move ahead with planning the project. You know it very well. This can't be the option. Project is already planned, isn't it? If there is need for any replan, well, you can go ahead with the initial impact analysis or the detailed impact analysis, follow the change request or the change control process. But obviously, not the current moment whatsoever. It's not asking you for that. You'll first have to go ahead and come up with the updates of the assumption log and the project charter, then possibly think through for the next options whatsoever possible or feasible at your end. So the best option out here would be option C. So as you see out here, the new law can have great impact on the project. This can lead to new assumptions or risks as well as potential changes to the project charter, which needs to be duly updated. Absolutely, Calvin. So new law may reflect in scope, time, and risk. Absolutely. Okay, so I see many of you have gone ahead and correctly attempted this particular question, which is great. Let me then move to the next question. Here you go. 60 minutes start now. Okay, so time's up. Is everyone able to see this particular question? It starts from the project being in execution stage. Okay, so Calvin says A, B, and D. Okay, Devobruto also says A, B, and D. Puna says A, C, and D. Vidyuta, A, B, and D. Yes, Oman, it requires more than one answers to be correct. Now, this happens to be one of the key question patterns of the current PMP exam. So you'll get to attempt multiple questions, all of which are correct. You'll have to select all these, then only you'll be getting the full marks. Otherwise, no mark from this question. Okay, so I see many of you going ahead and attempting, but I'm yet to come up with the best option out here. I'm not able to see that. Giving 10 more seconds. Anyone wishes to come up with any other option? A set of options? Spot on, Oman. I at least go ahead and see one out of the lot, and that is great out here. Absolutely. Demisha, there are three options that needs to be, selected out here. And you're perfectly okay if you have not got any of the options correct. It's the onus on us on EduHubSpot as well, and also partially on you to go ahead and see where your PMI way of thinking is somewhat getting deviated, and how to go ahead and best come out with the PMI way of thinking. Now, very importantly, here's the link of the current live streaming. So you can go ahead and share with any of your friends, acquaintances who are looking forward to, prepare for PMB the best way possible. So this is one of the platforms which we go ahead and provide from EduSpot, and we look forward to more and more participation from your end. Okay, so let's deep dive into the explanation of this particular question. Let's see. The question says the project is in execution stage. A new law requiring immediate compliance will impact scope, schedule, and cost. Which of the following actions will ensure compliance? Now, new law requires all these changes. Now, the key fact or the key, facet out here is for you to keep in mind that the changes need to be dealt with the proper change management in place. Now, when we talk about the proper change management in place, what are the key things that we go ahead and talk about? Change requests, phrasing change requests, possibly updating the issue logs whatsoever, or even say, for example, if you are not getting done with the relevant actions as per the current law, then you might have to go ahead and escalate it to the senior management and take it forward from there on. If you go for option D out here, making sure that the project management plan is updated, or even option E, where you are going ahead and thinking about the risk being avoided. Well, these two options, not fully aligning with what the immediate steps are. Immediate steps being you going ahead and raising the change request, isn't it? So once you raise the change request, you might go ahead and feel the necessity of going ahead and updating the project management plan. Let the scope, cost, and schedule be impacted. We'll have to first analyze whether those are going ahead and getting or having some substantial impacts, and then you go ahead and update the project management plan. Well, you can also go ahead and seamlessly, update the scope, schedule, and cost management plans, isn't it? The children itself. Why to go ahead and directly update the parent as well? So all these facets should be going ahead and striking your mind. So whenever you go ahead and get to see the options such as updating the project management plan, you have to think twice, saying that will I directly jump ahead and go ahead and update the project management plan, or will I go ahead and follow the change control process? Question says three options which will ensure compliance as per the new law. Now, which three options will go ahead and help you follow the compliance whatsoever? Fiercely going ahead and dealing with the change request whatsoever. So you'll have to preempt those options and come up with the relevant line of thinking. Now, if it is for option E, making sure that risk is avoided, well, not necessarily all the time that the risk will be avoided at your end. You might have to mitigate the risk. You might have to problem solve. You might have to collaborate. You might have to come up with the best option to deal with the risk, isn't it? So in all such cases, remember whatever is relevant or whatever is stark has to be the way forward. Otherwise, you might be overthinking. Yeah. So the best options out here in the lot options A, B, and C. No, Calvin. So I won't fully agree with you not agreeing with escalating to management whatsoever. So out here, you might have to go ahead and escalate to the senior management, especially the CCB. The CCB might comprise of the senior management itself, isn't it? So I won't be going ahead and saying that I should not be escalating it to the senior management. If it is requiring some compliance whatsoever, then you might easily have to go ahead and comply with the same. And that's why options A, B, and C are seamlessly aligning, not the other two options. Yeah, so out of the five, you'll have to select the best. Even if one of the other options is not 100% aligning with your thought process, even then also you'll have to give weightage some way or the other on the options which are weighing more than the rest of the lot. Okay, so moving ahead with the next question. Here you go. Let me start the timer. Okay, any more options? Okay, so time's up. Notarandi, you're spot on. Yes, it is. It is the option that you have selected, but may I ask anyone else any other options out here? Okay, so I see a couple of questions raised for the previous question. So, if you go out and have any such doubts, please feel free to reach me out on my email ID as well as my contact number. At any point of time, I will be happy to help you out. Even before going to the explanation of the current question, since we already discussed about the previous one, let me also go ahead and mention that the question was not there for from the perspective of escalation. The perspective or the facet which the exam setter was going ahead and testing out was the change management. Now in the change management, you know that there is a CCB involved, and in the CCB there might be many individuals who might belong to the same management as yours, who might even belong to the upper management. You might have to go for escalating in such cases, especially when it comes to drastic changes such as that. And secondly, Calvin, you are right, we are not going ahead and updating the project management plan right away. Firstly, because we have not yet analyzed the impact. Yeah, we have not yet gone ahead and seen. But even if it is mentioned in the question, the scope, time, and cost would get impacted, we might even go ahead and update the relevant plans, the children, as I mentioned. You need not update the parent if you are going ahead and updating the children itself, isn't it? The scope management plan, the cost management plan, and even the schedule management plan, because there are other management plans out of all the 18 management plans whatsoever, not having to update all, isn't it? Wheresoever it's relevant, you are updating. Might or might not have to update the project management plan. Now it might have seemed to be a closer option previously, but then as I mentioned, you have to select the best of the lot, and the best of the lot comes in alignment with the change request thought process. So if you have any further questions, please reach me out. I'll be happy to help you out over there. I see, Ijay, you have gone on and scored above target in all three domains, and thank you for reaching out with this particular message. We are very very happy to help you out. We are very, very happy to help all, each and everyone. Whomsoever comes up with these testimonials, it definitely encourages us and kind of gears us up for the way ahead. So we are always coming up with some of the other things for you guys. Very very happy. Okay, so now let's get into question number 3, the explanation of the same. What does this question say? A complex solution is being delivered by an energy infrastructure vendor as proof of concept to a new strategic customer. Okay, so there is some proof of concept going on. The complex solution also is being delivered by the energy infrastructure vendor as proof of concept to a new strategic customer. With the predictive project slated to be completed in 20 weeks. Now it says that the project whatsoever, which obviously aligns with the proof of concept, is slated to be completed in 20 weeks. There will be a long list of outstanding items. This will also result in dependency on external events featuring uncertain scheduling. Now, whatever predictivity you are coming up with, that has some uncertainty involved, right? So if it has some uncertainty involved, what best can you go ahead and avail? Obviously, you have to think from the agile perspective. Agile is all about you dealing with complexity, you adapting to the complex nature of the world whatsoever. Whatever be the project, you're not fully sure about whether you are going to 100% deliver whatever is slated out, possibly requires agile way of thinking. It was a predictive project, by the way, but things turned a bit ugly in terms of you coming up with uncertain events and also uncertain scheduling. So, in which of the following ways can the project manager handle this situation better? Option A: adopt fast tracking and crashing to complete the outstanding task. No clue whatsoever with regards to fast tracking and crashing being given in the question. So you have gone ahead and seen this question carefully. It's not sharing any clue whatsoever that you are not able to get done with the work at hand with the current resources. Why will you go for crashing? Or you're not able to go ahead and get done with within the particular timeline being set. Why will you go for fast tracking? Option A gets ruled out. Now, option B says plan 10 agile iterations to complete the task as soon as conditions allow. Agile is the word that I was looking forward to after having gone ahead and studied this particular question, isn't it? So I know for sure that the PMI way of thinking for dealing with uncertainty is from the agile mindset or the agile perspective. So I was on the lookout for agile options and I got one. Now 10 agile iterations, I might be scratching my head and thinking why. Normally, by default, we go for a 2 weeks agile iteration. So 20 weeks, 10 iterations seamlessly aligns. I don't have any problems with this particular option. Option C says transfer the outstanding items to the next project with the customer. Again, I am kind of resigning. I'm doing nothing, or I'm just giving the onus to someone else. Option C also gets ruled out. Get the outstanding task descoped and raise the invoice. Doesn't seamlessly align with this. Kind of out of the scope. Why? It's kind of saying that you're canceling the project and raising the invoice. Doesn't help. I'm not getting any clues from this particular question option. So obviously, option D also gets ruled out. I was looking for agile and I see only one option featuring agile. I go ahead and select it. That's my correct option. The 10 sprints can cover the 20-week window, which gives the best chance of completing the work in an ad hoc manner. So, as and when it comes, you go ahead and get done with it whenever there is any semblance of uncertainty in the project. Yeah, it can be it can be any time between 1 to 4 weeks. Absolutely. Perfect. So I hope everyone is in line with the explanation out here. Because Puna says, yes, how do we know how many sprints we need? Why is it 10? Now, see, very importantly, Puna is given out here in the question, or mentioned in the question about 20 weeks, right? So now you know it very well, as Ahmed also mentioned, that 1 to 4 weeks is the normal duration. Yes, absolutely. So if you take 2 weeks per sprint, which is by default in many cases, aligned with the project's requirement, you have 20, weeks covered. 10 iterations or 20 weeks, each iteration covering 2 weeks, isn't it? Okay, so here goes the next question. Let me start the timer. Okay, so time's up. Any other options? Very nice. I already see many of you going for the right option, which is awesome. Okay, so I see many of the options still floating in. Okay, so there was one comment in the previous question. What I got to see was someone mentioning, if it is 4 or 5 iterations and all, that's not the point out there in the question. The key point was agile and whether the entire option went ahead and fit. So I just went ahead and saw 10 iterations and whether it seamlessly fell in alignment with 20 weeks. So that yes, 20 weeks is perfectly fine with a 2 weeks iteration. My key point was to find out for that agile term. Why? Because I was able to deal with complexity. And that's why I went ahead and chose that option. You'll have to keep things simple. The simpler you go ahead and keep for PMP, the better served you are. Whenever you start overthinking or thinking this, that, and all, that is the moment when you start, going off track and possibly missing the point. Again, on if you have any doubts or queries, you can reach me out over email. As I mentioned, I have already shared my email ID, and also here's the YouTube link. You can go ahead and share with anyone whomsoever wishes to go ahead and attend this free session. Yes, it has also the predictive word. Now, there was the key. You thought that the project was predictive, is as mentioned in the question, but the question also says, as you move on, as you start reading along, that particular question is coming up with what? The uncertainty, the unpredictability. You can't predict how the scheme of things are. Things are becoming more and more complex. Will you still go ahead and persist with predictive world? No, you'll have to switch on to agile. That's why you went ahead and switched on to agile there. So that's how tricky the questions can go ahead and become. It went ahead and told you about predictiveness, but also went ahead and fed you information about unpredictability. That's why you switched on. So please reach me out if you have any further doubts on that particular question. Moving on to question 4. Awesome, Omar. So you are at the end of an agile project where all the stories are completed on schedule and all tests pass. However, the customer does not consider the project or the product a success. In which of the following ways can this outcome be prevented in future projects? So you are at the end of an agile project. Okay, so now all the stories got completed on schedule and all the tests pass. However, the customer does not consider the product a success. How can that be? You might be thinking, isn't it? You might be scratching your head and going ahead and again reading. If I were you, I would have started reading again. Why? How the customer can't consider the product a success? Hold on, let me read this question. You are at the end of an agile project where all the stories are completed on schedule and all tests pass. Now, if all tests pass, how can the customer say that they don't consider the product a success? Isn't that a kind of a perplexing puzzle or a jinx? In which of the following ways can this outcome be prevented in the projects? Yeah, so that's my question. So, in which of the following ways, this difference between your mindset or your, result and the customer's mindset who doesn't consider the product a success, can be suitably addressed. Now, when can this happen? Why we are going ahead and following agile, or why we are going ahead and taking care of the the faster feedback in iterations whatsoever, so that we can go ahead and get aligned with customer requirements ASAP and go ahead and deliver as per the customer requirements at the end of the project. Now, if you are not going ahead with faster feedbacks, then only these kinds of things can go ahead and happen. So the question is, where can we go ahead and have the fast feedbacks? Obviously, in sprint reviews or demos, isn't it? So that is the point where we go ahead and demo that product at the end of an iteration to the customer, get their feedback, refine our thought process, move into the next iteration with the refined thought process and also the refined scheme of actions. The continuous inspect and adapt goes on, cycle upon cycle upon cycle. Now, if you see option A says that make sure that the test plan includes the non-functional requirements in the backlog. Why will I go ahead and even think about non-functional requirements when it is not given in the question at all? I won't choose this option at all because this is out of the context. Not supposed to deal anything from the non-requirements, non-functional functional requirements perspective. Option B says come up with customer feedback on user incremental release demos. Perfectly in line with whatsoever we are thinking. We're not getting the customer feedback at the outset. That's the reason as to why, after having done with all these tests, which were possibly, misaligned with what the customer were asking for, we still find the customer looking for options, so looking for, answers from your end. They don't consider the product a success. So what do we have to go ahead and do? Absolutely right. You have to come up with customer feedback on tests as fast as it gets. Go for incremental release demos as and when possible. Agree with the customer on success criteria to be included in the definition of done. Well, as mentioned out here, have you gone ahead and seen in any of the clauses out here that the definition of done is getting missed? Or is any of the clauses in the, the list of requirements which your story needs to pass to go ahead and demo to the client, getting missed out? You have already passed all the tests. You have also completed on schedule. What clue, it goes there and gives that definition of done is not being followed at your end? You might have followed the entire definition of done out there, but you might not at the end of the day gone ahead and demoed it. You are not possibly getting the faster feedback. That's what, possibly resulted in the differences whatsoever. Yeah, so even if you have the definition of done in place, until unless you have the release demos, it's of no use, isn't it? Option D says, sure that the project vision is approved by the customer before developing the product backlog. Nothing to do with the product vision. In fact, you're delivering the requirements as per the, requirements outlined in the product backlog. The vision must be something, but you are going ahead and demoing, or you are going ahead and developing whatever has been outlined in the backlog. Vision is too far, to be, considered for reckoning in the present example out here. Yeah, so functional and non-functional requirements, someone please go ahead and not, consider at all in this question. So you are not getting any semblance of that particular word in the question. Why will you even think about that? It's entirely out of the context, isn't it? If you need more help on functional, non-functional requirements, please reach me out separately. Yes, all those who have opted for option B are correct. Yes, perfect, Calvin, is all about getting early and frequent feedback from the client. Agile Manifesto, absolutely. Continuous feedback, isn't it? Okay, let's move ahead with the next question. There it goes. Let me make it full screen first. And here is a timer. Okay, so I get to see a number of options out here. And believe me, all that I go ahead and get to see in the screen are correct. Yes, it's option B, perform the project handoff. Let's see what the question talks about. Even though a project is completed, the project manager and team members are still being asked to make small adjustments, resolve technical issues, and evaluate new requirements. Now, this is a common generic question out here. If you go out and encounter any such question which says that even though you have completed the project, or you are in the closure phase of the project, the manager and his team are still being asked to make small adjustments, resolve some XYZ stuffs, or even start working on some of the other new things, you are not supposed to. PMI is very stringent about the processes to be followed, and as per the closure guidelines, as per the closure rule book, you're not supposed to go ahead and hinge on any new work whatsoever during that particular time period. The project manager needs to ensure that the product developed gets operational support, whatever support whatsoever needed from his end. Which of the following should be the project manager performing? Now, if say for example you are in this phase, you just have to go ahead and remember follow the handoff or the closure methods whatsoever. In closure, you're not supposed to obviously go ahead and do something new, which is not part of the contract that you have agreed. So option A, as you see, accept whatever additional is being requested. No, absolutely not. Not supposed to do that. Remember, you might be doing that in your project, or your organization might be supporting the same. But when it comes to PMI, goes ahead and strictly says that you're not supposed to go ahead and take care of any additional requests or any additional response or any additional work at the point where you're supposed to close the project, perform the work or activities for project closure. You're not supposed to go ahead and perform anything at that point of time, apart from obviously closing the project. Yeah, so additional requests, whatever be it, you're not supposed to accept. Very, very important out here. And that's why the PMI way of thinking comes in play. Perform the project handoff, as I mentioned, as many of you have correctly opted for this option. It's perfectly spot on. Expel the project team. I won't be reading as such the rest of the option out here. As the product is still under development, continue to fulfill the request. Never. So even option A and D are perfectly in line. If it says accepting or continuing to fulfill the request, absolutely not. Option B is the best option out of the lot. Okay. Absolutely, Dr. Andy, and you are one of the persons who have actually gone ahead and attempted most of these questions at the outset itself. It's just after going ahead and giving, and after 30 to 40 seconds, I'm seeing Dr. Andy going ahead and coming up with the right option. Perfectly right. You are doing great. Many of you are doing great. And I presume Durga, who has gone ahead and asked, why not C? You know, perfectly, is in line as per what Rotrandy has gone ahead and explained to you as well. Never take extreme options. That's one of the key facets which you should be always keeping in mind from the PMI perspective. Okay, so let's move ahead to the next question. Here goes your timer. Your time starts now. Okay, so time's up. Spot on, Devobrata. Okay, Rotrandy says either D or C. Now let me go ahead and give you a clue. Signing off. Yeah, at the signing off stage, it's all about the closure, isn't it? So how about you going ahead and choosing the documents which will be pertinent for that phase itself? If you are able to go ahead and perfectly align, awesome. Don't have to go ahead and get confused among the commas or the phrases. Absolutely, absolutely, Indumati, absolutely, Gaintlal, absolutely, Lionel. So in such cases, how to best go ahead and deal with the question? Let's first read the question. Okay. You're the project manager of a software project. A lot of time gets spent helping operations and maintenance staff with a recently commissioned project component. You now need to validate that the component got signed off and ownership transferred. You are validating that it got signed off and the ownership got transferred. Which of the following three documents should the project manager make use of for this decision? Now, when you are going and signing off, remember, and also transferring the ownership, you're having to take care of a thing from the perspective of closure. And in closure, which of the following reports are mandatory or make sense? That's how you have to go ahead and proceed out here, right? So now, final report. Whenever you go ahead and get to see, obviously is a big candidate, isn't it? Then followed by the project document updates. Yes, absolutely. Whatsoever project document you need to go ahead and update at the end, You are going ahead and having to do that. Now, what are the various sets of project documents? Could be assumption log, could be this, could be that. And there are 33 sets of project documents, isn't it? So whatsoever project document would be pertinent, you're going ahead and updating those. And also making sure the lessons learned register and relevant other documents from the OPA perspective are also getting updated. So now this particular out here is perfectly in line with me. Now, if say for example, I'm not fully confident with option A, what if? Yeah, there's always a clause of what if, isn't it? Now, final report always holds great ground for me whenever I'm talking about the sign off and the ownership getting transferred, isn't it? So final report, wheresoever it would be there, would kind of be strong options for me. Option A and option C has. Does option B and option D have? No. So I know for sure that A and C can have more weightage. But let's hold on. Let's see the other options out here. Now, if you see procurement agreements out here, the procurement agreements in terms of the clauses and the SOWs, the statement of work, well, it has already been dealt off, and you have at this point of time come to a stage where you have already gone ahead and taken care of all the project document updates, isn't it? So procurement agreements at this particular phase out here is not possibly going to make too much of help whatsoever. So remember, you now need to validate that the component got signed off and ownership got transferred. You're just validating that particular perspective out here. You're not going ahead and checking up the procurement agreements and saying how to proceed with the other facets of the statement of work whatsoever. So procurement agreements get ruled out. Now, if procurement agreements get ruled out, and if you go ahead and opt for or between options A and C, final report and OPS stands out, but procurement agreements gets ruled out. So option A stands out here. Now, in options B and D, again you get to feature these procurement agreements, which won't be the case as I mentioned, isn't it? So those anyways gets ruled out. By lieu or in lieu of the process, it has to be option A. Yes, Dr. Andy, you are right. It's option A. It's not relevant here. Yeah. Okay, so I see that everyone is in line with question C. Is not mandatory in the closer phase. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on. Here goes question 7. It's absolutely okay, Calvin. It's actually good that if you read slowly, you should never go ahead and sacrifice quality over quantity, isn't it? Read slowly, take your time, take 30 to 40 seconds to understand the entire set of the phrases given in the question. Then only go for the options. By the way, Calvin has already gone ahead and passed PMP. As you see, he is a PMP Calvin. But still, hats off to him that he goes and makes sure that each and every session from our end he goes and attends and comes up with his ever so enriching contribution out here. Obon, for any queries on procurement, please reach me out. There are several discussions to go ahead and take care of. We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and help you out in that regard as well. Any queries anywhere, please feel free to reach me out. Okay, so here goes option 7, and I see someone has already gone ahead and marked it. Let me go ahead and make it full screen first. And here goes your timer. I don't mind if I go ahead and give you extra 1 minute. Let me put myself on mute. Okay, so I see many of you opting for option C. Let me get myself back and let's go for the question. So the project happens to be in initiation phase or stage, Due to lack of funding, the project is terminated and the project manager must go ahead and close the project. Which of the following actions should the project manager first execute? Now, very, very importantly, it's mentioned out here that the project manager must close the project. Now, whenever you are at this juncture where you are supposed to decide on what should be the next step when you are, for sure going to close the project, obviously, what should you do? Someone might say, perform the analysis, go for the relevant impact, and then go for the relevant, steps whatsoever. But what comes even before that? You are all absolutely spot on. You have to go out and review the organization project closure guidelines, isn't it? Now, closing all project procurement processes or even determining the potential impact, which obviously will be the first step after having reviewed the guidelines whatsoever, is still not the first step whatsoever. The question says, which of the following actions should the project manager first execute? So, if you have to go ahead and go for the project closure, you have to review the guidelines. Make sure that the communications management plan. Well, I won't read further. Communication management plan has nothing to do with this particular question. It's just out of the box or out of the context. Option C makes the most sense. Yeah, so many of you, the majority I would say, went for option C, which again makes me very happy. But those who are yet not aligned with this particular question, please think through. Just go back to the explanations. And by the way, you anyways have the YouTube video of mine to go ahead and sync back whenever you feel free. And you can always go ahead and research and go ahead and dissect, bisect the question, and then come up with any of your comments. I'll be happy to help you forward. Okay, so curious, please, what type of info is the project organization project closure guidelines? So the project closure guidelines will go ahead and give you the guidelines for closing the project whenever you are in closing phase or even closing a particular project whatsoever. So the question says that you must close the project. What is your next step? So obviously it will be to review the closure guidelines. It's as simple as it. Okay, George, I am able to view the screen clearly from my end. It happens, seldom where, the internet bandwidth might cause some issue at, the recipient's end or your end, whatsoever. So might be, that's causing the screen to be unclear. So can you please check at your end and, see? You can try to restart your system, possibly. It's network bandwidth issue, nothing else. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next question. Here you go. And here goes your timer. Perfect, guys. You all are rocking. Okay, so let's see. I see majority have gone for option C. Let's see why that should be the correct option out here. Nothing against the other options, but then we'll have to go ahead and see again. Let's not go for the extreme steps, as Rotrandi rightly pointed out, and he also happened to be the fastest out here, kind of the fastest finger first when we went ahead with the question. He got done with as less as 30 seconds. Awesome. A project got successfully delivered and the project manager is executing project closure. Which of the following should be the next step? So you are executing project closure, after the project got successfully delivered, right? What is the next step that you should be going ahead and following? So you are in closure out here, but after the project getting successfully delivered, which of the following steps should you go for? Obviously, go for the stakeholder acceptance, isn't it? Unused funds? Obviously not. Whenever you see this option, you can keep it aside. Reassign the project team. Now, very importantly, many of you, as I mentioned, the other options are not bad at all. Many of you have gone ahead and chosen option B. thinking that this is the project closure phase or step, right? So better go for reassigning the project team is one of the the project closure steps itself. But are we supposed to reassign right away without even getting the formal stakeholder acceptance? Think through. So if you go ahead and get this particular option out here, to obtain the formal stakeholder acceptance, you should go for that. Nowhere in the question is mentioned that you have gone ahead and formally got the sign off from the stakeholders. You're supposed to get it. It got delivered, but you are yet to get the formal stakeholder acceptance. Please go for that. Bid documents, well, doesn't come in play out here, isn't it? The best option out here is, as you have rightly pointed out, should obtain formal stakeholder acceptance. Okay, so validate scope itself, no, not necessarily, not the formal one. Now, in validate scope, you might go ahead and compare the same with the the sprint reviews or the demos, where we go ahead and come out with the demo to the customer and we go ahead and take their feedback, isn't it? We keep validating in even in the predictive world as well, but then it's not fully validated until unless we get the formal acceptance. Yeah, it is a tricky question, Uman. Yes, perfect, Calvin. It's partially the the component deliverable only. It's not fully until unless you get the formal sign off. Very very important. The keyword is formal. Yes, absolutely, spot on, Devoprato. Spot on. But Shoikat, as I mentioned, reassigning the project team whatsoever, although is one of the key steps out here under project closure, you're not supposed to go ahead and choose it right away. Will you choose it until unless you got the formal acceptance? No, right? So that's one of the key facets to go ahead and take care of. Yes, the formal word makes the difference. Absolutely. Okay, so moving on. Let me make it first. Full screen. Here goes question number 8. Three more questions to go. Or rather, two more questions to go. It's question number 9 out here. Okay, so time's up. I see many of you choosing options A, also many of you choosing option C. Let's see what the question is saying. Jason is the project manager of a software project. He has finished a major IT project, ensured that all the systems are working, verified that the functionality is up and running, and duly informed the customer. Which of the following next steps should the project manager take? Now he has finished the project, ensured that all the systems are running, working, verified that the functionality is up and running, duly informed the customer. He has got the primary criteria, the primary steps done or addressed with the customer. Which of the following next steps should the project manager take? Now, what are you going ahead and dealing with inside the question out here? The various steps of the closure process, isn't it? Now, any of the steps out here from the question, which goes and seamlessly aligns with the closure process, might as such, go ahead and make sense for you. Now, view, review, and complete the release documentation. Now, release documentation, remember, has already taken place, way ahead. So at the outset itself, we had come up with the release plans whatsoever, and then you had gone ahead and got done with the releases as and when it got right. So and also very very importantly, once you have gone ahead and got done with the project, you have already got done with all the releases out here. Now there's nothing to verify out here, even though you are completing the release documentation out here. Very very importantly for those who have gone ahead and opted for option A. B, update stakeholders, team members, and risk register. Absolutely not. You're not supposed to update the risk register at the closure phase. It's not one of the processes or one of the steps inside the closure. Add the lessons learned to the organizational database. Absolutely. It's one of the very, very vital steps out there in project closure. Apart from the other steps, where you go ahead and take the stakeholder feedback, release the project resources, as we got to see in the previous question, is a very closely tied option as well. Just like that, even adding the lessons learned to the organizational database is also one of the key facets out here. You are ensuring out here that you are leaving no lessons lost from your end. You're going and making sure that all the lessons are adequately added to the database. Making sure the procurement plan is closed out? No. So that has already been dealt with earlier. Yes, absolutely, Calvin. It is done years ago. It's way, way back. Release is at the high level, isn't it? So you have already got done with the release documentations way back. So there's nothing to go ahead and verify or even review. You can say that you got done with some of the other release documentation towards the end, if at all something is pending, but that normally doesn't happen. Release is always at high level. Right. So now lessons learned, and that's a very pertinent question out here. In retrospectives, the sprint retrospectives and agile, we go ahead and deal with updating the lessons learned register, isn't it? We go ahead and deal with all the the key facets out there inside the sprint retrospectives. Well, deal or study about the lessons learned. We are not talking about those lessons learned. We are talking about compiling the whole lessons learned for that project, be it agile or non-agile, just to make sure that that document becomes a very valuable resource for the future projects to follow. Earlier, that is in early iterations, you are just updating the lessons learned registered during the sprint retrospectives, just to ensure that you're taking the learning from one sprint to the other. But out here in the closure phase, you are going in and documenting the whole set of lessons to ensure that those set of lessons are also equally valuable in other projects as well. Right. So many of you are already knowledgeable out here. Is a key or the crucial component of OPA. Yes, it's performed throughout the project. Absolutely, Calvin. Yes. So it tests the all organization's knowledge transfer during the closing stage. Procurement plan doesn't even come up with at this particular phase whatsoever. Yes, absolutely. The procurement plan is the way in which you have to go out and deal with procurement. And as Varun says, as EduHubSpot says, how to deal with procurement is obviously one of the key facets of procurement plan. Now, that is, already dealt with at the outset itself. There might have been requirement of any changes. You might have come up with change request process whatsoever to update the procurement plan, but that does not have anything to do with the closure. Perfect. Now let's move ahead with the next question. This is the last question of the day, and let's make it full screen. Here goes your timer. Okay, so time's up. Any further attempts? See, couple of you going ahead and marking the option correctly. Let me not go ahead and tell which option. Okay, Demisha. Okay, Uman. Yes, Puna. You need to be now confident with whatever option you come up with. Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into the description of this question. So there has been significant changes to the project scope and schedule after 8 iterations. This is attributed to the tech regulations and security policies which get regularly reviewed. Now, in other words, owing to these tech regulations and security policies, there has been some significant changes to the scope and the schedule after 8 iterations or n iterations. So these are immaterial. Now, in order to avoid further delays, the project manager suggests a new approach for the new iteration. Which of the following should the project manager do first? Okay, so some new approach, new iteration. Now, whenever you come up with new suggestion whatsoever, where you go ahead and go ahead and put forward your voice or opinion, obviously during the sprint retrospective, isn't it? Because that is the informal session where you go ahead and discuss what went well, what didn't go on so well, and what could have been improved better. So, with this particular thought process in mind, I know that the keyword has to revolve around retrospective. Now, if I am going ahead and knowing that, rest assured, I just have to go ahead and select the option. That's it. Cost benefit analysis, new technologies, trends, backlog refinement, customer change requests. I didn't get to find the word retrospective, I found it in option C. That's it. My job is done. Select this particular option, click on submit. You know for sure that it has to be the option out here. There are tricky words out here. Yes, enhancement in next iteration needs to be put into retrospective. Absolutely spot on, Mohammed. See, these are how the questions come. Are these difficult? No, absolutely not. It requires some kind of you going ahead and being focused towards the contents of the question, knowing what the keywords are for there for, and how to go ahead and ask the question, preempting it with the right thought process in mind, and then going ahead and selecting the right option either by elimination, keywords technique, be it any techniques whatsoever. Now, we, by the way, go ahead with plenty of examples, in our videos as well as in the live sessions, whatsoever we conduct. And talking about live sessions, we have this upcoming boot camp of ours. So, whomsoever are looking forward to, going ahead and acing PMP with flying colors, you can go ahead and reach me out on my email ID, which is this, or over my WhatsApp, or even call me up at my cell, which is this. You can go ahead and check out the information about our upcoming PMP bootcamp. So not only takes care of all your queries, but also helps you get aligned with the PMI way of thinking the best way possible. With us, the mentors, going ahead and hand-holding you literally from scratch to success, you have our help whatsoever. And you don't have to worry even a single bit. Yeah, we go ahead and make sure that you are not going ahead and feeling any way whatsoever in the midst of any kind of lack of clarity. We go ahead and help you from scratch with all the doubt clearance, with obviously problem solving, and making sure that you don't have any kind of weaknesses whatsoever left in terms of acing this exam. We go anyway till any way whatsoever possible. So just reach me out and see how we go ahead and create a difference in your preparation. You'll very soon see that it's the best way to go ahead and take it forward, and it can be done in the easiest of time frames, is the most efficient ways, and very seamless as possible. It's not all that difficult, remember that. Thank you, Dr. Andy. I'm looking forward to that. And everyone who goes on and comes back to these sessions and says that your videos have been proven to be very useful, it actually goes and increases our motivation even to some other level whatsoever. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vidyuta. Thanks, Calvin. Thanks, Indumati. Thoroughly enjoyed this session and look forward to you going and participating in the next weekly live session of arts, same time, same day. Till then, take care. Reach me out if you have any doubts or queries. And as I mentioned, the upcoming bootcamp is going to get started in the coming week itself. Look forward to your participation. Thank you. Take care. And see you next week. Bye bye.